Hi, welcome everybody back to State of the Black Male with the Sharper Moise Foundation. I am founder and CEO of the Sharper Moise Foundation, Dr. Linda Moise. And today I am joined by educator and author, Mr. Lloyd Knight. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, how you doing? I feel like this is such a long time coming, us coming together. Of course, being colleagues for years. Uh,
Yes.
we was down in Florida, but now
Yep.
we're where we are now, and I'm so blessed to be in your acquaintance this evening.
Thank you. So I'm gonna just jump right in with our first question. What drew you to your chosen profession?
Wow. Thank you so much for asking that question because it's my why. Um, at the end of the day, I feel like any student who has experienced 50% of what I experienced as a child deserves to have someone in their life that will love and care for them and ensure that they get the best education possible. It's been my life mission to be a part of the eradication of failing schools in our inner cities. And part of that drive and desire comes from my childhood, where at 5 years old, I lost my mother um, through complications of having my little brother. Um, my father passed away 7 years later when I was 12 years old. And at 12 years old, my father had already remarried my Korean, my mother, my stepmother, who was Korean. And she raised me until I was 18 years old. I had very few role models outside of the church and the school, which is probably why I'm a spiritual man, and I've always been that way, but definitely why I've been an educator because I want to be that person, that role model, that mentor, that teacher, that educator, that coach, that people were to me so that I could be the man that I am today.
Wow, that's very interesting experience that you've had. And I want you to kind of share your experience with us as a Black man
Yes.
navigating through your career and your profession in education. How
Oh,
has
wow.
that experience been?
Well, I think my first ideas of me in education as a Black male came from my department chair my freshman year. His name was Dr. Arbery at Shaw University. And he was a wonderful man, but he told me very early on, he said, Lloyd, you want to be a social studies teacher. Why do you want to be a social studies teacher? And I said, I want to be a coach one day. He said, stop that. You're more than a coach. You're more than a coach. He says, I want you to be an elementary education major. And I was like, why you want me to do that? And he said, because two reasons. One, this world is dying for Black males in elementary education because only there you're going to be able to make the difference that I think I know you really want to make. And then this other idea he said is that if you're a Black male in education, you'll never have to look for a job in an elementary school. They will find you, sir.
Because there
So
are very few.
yes. So from that point forward, whether it was me being a TA the year after I graduated, because I didn't feel like I was ready to be a teacher because I knew what it took and I didn't want to hurt anyone's kids. So I said, I'm going to be a TA for the first year after I graduate. My teachers told me, Mr. Knight, you are better than a TA. We are going to give you an evaluation that says that you're great, but you are not invited back next year. You have to go be a teacher. They pushed me out that door, and I've had a lot of success in education because I always remembered that I was a Black male teacher in the situation. And I always knew that I had to be what I had later on in my education life for those Black male students. So whether it's me battling the second grade teacher in my first year of school because I want to establish an all Black male mentoring group. And she just can't understand why she can't invite Bobby, who doesn't have a father in his life. Or me blindly going to the west side of Chicago with no connections, with no prospects, simply because I knew that I was going to enter classrooms with 100% Black students and 100% students in poverty. And that for the first time in my life, I had a chance to make a true difference. Or me entering the charter world where I go to my first principals meeting and I enter the room and I realize that I am one of two Black male principals out of 98 schools that are in urban districts. Thankfully, I was able to lead by example. And when I left that organization, there are about 20%, maybe 15% of Black males, principals in their company. I'm very proud to have a part of that because um, someone had to do it. And I'm glad I had an opportunity to do it because we did great work there. Or um, really truly experiencing what real power is. And it's the last thing I'll say because, yes, they'll let us stand in the hallway and navigate our students. Yes, they will allow us to be mentors and deans in classrooms. They'll let us be the Black male teacher who has the bad kids and we have the dream. But will you let us lead? Not just be the principal or an assistant principal, but will you give us a chance to be on boards? Will you give us a chance to found organizations? Will you give us a chance to um, truly be the thing that makes a real impact for our communities? And that's where I am now because I run my own LLC, Culture of Love Consulting. I'm an author, as you said. The Three Phases of School Culture was #1 on Amazon for 2 weeks for new releases as an education administration book. I'm very proud of those things and is out now on paperback. But will you let us lead? And I think that's where the crux of it is because until we start to see boards and schools being run by people that look like our students, that walk like our students, that talk like our students, I think we're always going to have those struggles with the state of the Black male.
So, in that same manner, in that same vein, what was the mindset that you had to adopt in order to kind of navigate
Yeah.
the bitter and the sweet parts of the journey, right? Because there are those ups and downs. You walk into that room, you're one of two, and I know who the other Black male was too. You know, yeah, I know who he was.
I talked to him the other day. Yeah, I talked to him the other day.
Oh, okay, good. Yes, because yes, I remember who he is. So, like,
Yeah.
what mindset did you have to adopt in order to try to initiate that change within those organizations where there wasn't that advocacy for Black male, for the Black representation, so that we as educators and founders can represent our students?
You know, I wish I said I could tell you there's a technique that I pulled out where I said, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to speak this way. I'm going to move this way. And this is how I'm going to get people to listen to what a Black male educator says when there's so few representation within a lot of our nonprofit organizations. But the truth is that I truly had to live the mindset of I don't get to be as good as you and expect the same returns. I know better than that. So yeah, I had to work and very few know, but I had to truly work 12 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m., thinking about students, working with teachers. My administrators in my early years as administrator were so annoyed with me because It's Saturday morning and I have ideas on the group chat. It's Sunday evening and I have ideas on the group chat because we're teaching students on the far south side of Chicago in Altgale Gardens near Roseland, the Wild Hundreds. Our students needed us to make it for them. Our school was on the closing list. What are we going to do? And what we did is we worked and we made history. But it took history. It took history for a person to move through an organization. It couldn't be just the same. And the reason why it couldn't be just the same is because I'm not going to go to country music concerts. I'm never going to. I'm never going to get up at 6 a.m. and go for a jog with you. I'm never going to be in those spaces. It will always be professional with me. So if it's always going to be professional with me, and I'm never going to be able to schmooze my way through an organization like that, I just have to destroy you. I just have to beat you. And like that mindset didn't just come from like me being like, I wasn't born like this, right? I went to Shaw University after years of being a competitive track athlete, football player, basketball player. I pledged my fraternity where, of course, we're the best, Omega Psi Phi, right? That mindset comes through all that so that I had an opportunity to enter an organization. And I never thought for a second I couldn't be as good of an educator as anyone else who was there. I just knew I wasn't going to get the same looks and advantages. And the truth is that I got lots of those looks. I don't feel like there's anything that I've ever been in an organization and I didn't feel heard or I didn't feel like I could get the things done that I needed to get done. It was just harder. It was just harder. And I don't think there's a better way to articulate it than really just kind of saying that. I never felt like it was impossible. I just knew I had to be like really awesome to be able to get the things done for our kids that we needed to get done.
So, in that vein, who would you say have been your biggest inspirations personally and professionally?
Ooh, man. Oh my gosh, there's just so many people. Okay. High school. Coach Jack, I love you, brother. Man, he was he pulled me aside my summer of me heading into my senior year. He said, Lloyd, if you get straight A's and you run 14 flat in the hurdles and you score 10 touchdowns, I think I can get you a scholarship. It was the first time in my entire life since my father had died that someone who looked like me spoke life into me in that way. And it changed my trajectory for the rest of my life because I did run the 14 flat in the hurdles. And I did run at Penn Relays in the Championship of America's Heat in the 400-meter hurdles. And I did score those touchdowns. And he did give me a scholarship to Shaw University. So he saved my life. You know, God puts people in your life for a reason. Coach Jack is the greatest mentor in the history of anything. Seriously, he just entered the Hall of Fame for Newport News track and field, just as a coach, and he's amazing. Rhonda Bell, Delta, she was in my first interview. She picked me. She taught me. She was excellent every single day. Every day, as when she was my mentor, she would just put things on my desk and say, "Hey, try this." She worked so hard. She cared about the kids so much. She was so strict. She was so tough. She was so dope, man. I'm telling you, I get excited to talk about it because seriously, I am not a quarter of the educator I am if I was in anyone else's hands as a mentor. She's just so awesome. so strong. She didn't play with anybody. She was president of the union for the city, loved the Newport News, went to Hampton University, was involved in everything, loved everyone. I mean, she was awesome. She showed me so much. She looked at me like I was out of my mind when I said I was going to Chicago. What are you doing? Do you know what you're doing? Yes, I'm going to help the children. No. Do you know what you're doing?
Oh my gosh.
Yes. In Chicago, um, Troy LaRaviere gave me my first assistant principal. I mean, my first teaching job in Chicago. He told me he plucked me out of 250 applicants. I was the 5th teacher in 5 weeks of a
Oh,
5th grade class.
oh my.
I got demolished, but man, he was so real. I'll never forget there was a fight in my classroom. He walked up to me. Actually, I'm not going to tell the whole fight, but I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen, and I wasn't paying attention. And he talks to the girls. He pulls me into the hallway. He says, "So what happened?" I said, "They fought." He said, "No, what happened?" I said, "I was standing at the board. I turned around and they were fighting." He said, "You don't get it. This is your classroom. How do you not know what is happening in your classroom?" Well, look, I think I said something like completely idiotic, right? Like, I mean, if you think this way, I don't think you're idiotic. But I said, "They just fought." And he was like, "You're supposed to know everything that happens in your class." And I said,
Right.
and I said, "Well, I feel like they need to get a little bit of privacy." No, they don't get any privacy. What's wrong with you? I mean,
Listen, he is so right. Because as an educator, you have to have those bionic ears. I know I used to sit at my desk. We're waiting at dismissal. I'm sitting at my desk at my computer or something, and I hear something from across the room, and I turn around, and they're like, "You heard that?" Yes. Now come here and let's have a conversation about what you just said. You gotta grow bionic ears and hear everything.
Everything, but I didn't have them back then, and they fought. He ended up running for mayor. He's the president of the Principals Association for Chicago. He's a super politician. He's an amazing, amazing educator. But he gave me really tough love when I needed it. And he used to do morning meeting speeches every day. And it's something that I continue to do every day as well. He's an amazing educator. And then Michael Campbell was my first principal after they fired me from that school on the West Side. I deserve to get fired. And similar to myself, it was like almost a repeat of the first story you heard from me. He has a social studies opening and a math opening. He's like, "What do you want?" I was like, "Man, I'd really like that social studies one." Because who wants to do state testing? I get to have fun, talk about history with the kids. We have the interview. He looks at me. He's like, "Sir, I'm going to need you to teach math." The man was so professional and was such a great leader. I told him, and he knows I'm doing well. It's my last year. I just feel like I'm going to leave teaching. And I'm looking at the gym teacher every day, and I'm like, man, it's a good life over there. Come to school in sweats every day, shoot hoops at lunch, no testing. I'm going to go see if I can be a PE teacher. I go to my principal, Michael Campbell, and I say, "Sir, I'm thinking about becoming a PE teacher." He looks at me and he says, "Sir, no." He's like, "You will be either an athletic director or a principal." I was like, "A principal? You see that in me? You see that in me? Really?" You know I got fired last year, right? No? This year, this 1 year, you see that in me? And 3 years later, I was the principal of the school.
So I want to talk about something because you brought something up. You was
Right.
like, you got fired, and you was
Right.
like, but I deserve to get fired.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, I'm pretty sure when you were getting fired, you were like, "Oh crap, I'm getting fired." In retrospect, would you have what could you have done differently to avoid that?
Well,
Or
hmm,
is there anything that you think you could have done to
I
have
know there's things I could have done differently. I never had a student fail a state test my first 3 years in the classroom in English or math. And I was an elementary teacher. So we're not talking about all I do is focus on this. No, I'm teaching all the subjects. I never had a kid fail. So that arrogant guy showed up in Chicago. I didn't think I needed much help. I didn't. I thought I knew how to teach. And I was really wrong. I was terrible. I was awful. I wasn't attentive. Man, I was with AUSL. It was an AUSL school. And my coach, Shonda, would show me video of myself teaching. Like I remember sitting on the couch in Chicago and watching that video. I was awful. If you pluck me there now, I'd be more attentive. I'd be more firm out the gate. I'd be more consistent. I'd ask for help. I'd seek help more. I'd talk to the previous year teachers more. I'd ask for people to come in. I'd ask for advice. Like all the things that I beg new teachers to do, I would do those things. Um, I had great relationships with those students. I was their coach. I helped them. I coached them in track that year. We won the city championship, fifth and sixth grade girls track. Yeah, those girls who fought, they could run too. They could run and coach basketball. We had great basketball seasons. They loved me. I loved the kids. They were good kids, but I was not equipped to be the educator they needed, and I deserved to be fired. And I remember when it happened, I had terrible NWA results. I didn't really understand the test. No one really taught me the test, but I think they wanted me to go seek the information. But no one really taught me the test. So when the kids didn't do well, I was like, wow, okay. What does that mean? I've never been a part of a district where that meant that like you were automatically going to be possibly on the chopping block. But this was one of those schools. So when the scores came back, I remember my assistant principal Arabier coming to me and being like, "Hey man, I saw those scores." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." He was like, "Nah, you don't get it? Like, they're terrible." And it was basically him letting me know, like, yo, you're gonna get fired. And on the day it happened, it was like 2 days into the end of the school year, they brought me into a room and my principal was there, my assistant principal was there. She was like, "Hey, your scores are real bad. We're gonna fire you." And I looked at them and I was just like, all the only words that could come to my mouth were, "I just want to thank you so much for giving me a chance to take care of my family over this year. I was new to this city. You gave me a chance. Thank you." And she looked at me and she said, "I think you're gonna be okay." And I knew at the second she said that, that wherever I went next, I was gonna be a monster. I'm ready. But that those are the things I would have did differently. I'd have listened more. I'd have been more humble. Because I'm a far more humble person now than I was back. I'm willing to admit that.
how did that experience shape the administrator that you became?
Ooh. Um, it it gives me a level of empathy for the struggles of a teacher that I think people who maybe never struggled as a teacher would never be able to give. I know what it feels like. We're doing this, right? So like, let's be open and honest. Have you ever driven to work and thought, man, if I just clip a car, I don't have to go in, but I don't have to necessarily be hurt? Like, seriously, the stress and the anxiety of failing, especially if you've never failed before, not really. It is paralyzing. I'll never forget showing up. It's a Tuesday, going to get my students. We had specials first period of the day. So I pick them up. I'm trying to get them to a level 0. You cannot walk in the hallway until you're a level 0. It's one of those schools. They won't get to a level 0. I'm fussing at them. I find myself screaming at them. They finally get silent. And I just get really like nasty almost. I'm just like, hey, this is why we don't have good things, basically. And I'm frustrated and I get them and I'm fussing at them all the way downstairs to keep them quiet. And we get all the way to the door and I see Mr. Spingross, the music teacher, and I'm like, here they go. Like, I'm sick of this. And they're still kind of quiet and they're looking at me. And I go downstairs to my mailbox and get my mail. I got in that elevator and I started crying because I never wanted to be that educator. I never wanted to be that person. And I was mad at them for pushing me into it. I'm thinking I'm going to get fired. My wife going to leave me. I'm in Chicago. I don't know nobody here. I just know that I want to be here and educate children. And as I walked off that elevator and I still had tears all down my face. And I'm like, I got 30 minutes to get it together. My principal was sitting on that bench and knew what I had just did. And she was like, sometimes you got to be that way. Like good. Like a real look like soft self. Finally. And I just felt sick. And I was like, man, I suck at this. Why am I so bad? But what came out of it was eventually I got better because I had great coaching. My first coach was awful. My second coach gave me tangible things to do, and she was willing to model them. And she did it. And every time I did something good, she told me I did it, and I felt great. And she kept telling me, you're getting better. And I started believing it. And then one day, remember, I was the 5th teacher in 5 weeks. 4 different teachers walked into that classroom and were run out that room, some within a day. After 3 months, my principal came in and we were reading silently. And I was doing a graphic organizer and they were answering questions. And she looked at me and was like, about time, about time. I ain't think you was gonna make it, and walked out the door. So anyway, yeah, I have a lot of empathy for people that struggle. There's a lot of tears that have been cried on this shoulder. There's a lot of people I care about that were my people that I coached because it's personal for me. It's not about me making sure you keep your job. It's about making a difference for our kids. And I feel like if you listen to me and I listen to you and we come to a compromise and we work together, hey, guess what? We're gonna make history. We're gonna do great things.
It's funny you say that about being the 5th teacher. I remember when I came first year teaching Miami.
Right. Oh yeah.
And we were in a city. I think it was 7 of us that came into the school, brand new teachers.
Right.
By the end of the school year, I was the only new teacher left that was there. And the reason why I was able to stay was because I had a group of women
Mm.
who wrapped themselves around me because I was drowning, right? I was like, oh my God, what
Yeah.
is going on? What did I do? What did I sign up for? But I remember our math and science coach, Mrs. Sharp. She's the principal in Chicago now. And the fourth grade teachers, they were older, but they kind of wrapped their arms around me and was like, okay, I need you to pay attention to this. Don't pay attention to that. We walk out of a meeting, I'm like, oh my God. They're like, yeah, no, don't pay attention to that. This is what you need to concentrate on. This is what you need to do in order to make it through. Like you said, that modeling, that coaching, to really, really help, because your heart can always be in there,
Yes.
but you got to have the tools in order to survive, because it's not for the faint of heart. You can have the heart for it,
Yeah.
but you have to have the tools in order for you to be successful, to deal with the other stuff that comes along with being a teacher and being an educator.
Well, there's a lot of people who have the heart for it. The problem is you have to be willing to learn about the culture and the community that your students live in. And I think, because I think to segue to kind of this a little bit, I think that there's so many people out there who want to be teachers in the inner city because, from my own experience, and I think you understand this too, when you get it, it's no better feeling. And hey, if I do well at this, there's student loan forgiveness, there's all these things, right? But where the rubber meets the road is, hey, are you ready to be willing to adapt who you are and how you present yourself to make sure that these students can maximize their learning? What are you willing to give of yourself? Because I feel like a lot of times, especially when I was an educator in Chicago, we hired lots of people that presented themselves to really love the kids. One of my favorite stories, there was this teacher, first year, she wrote notes. She wrote like letters to every single one of her first grade students, and they were on the desk. And I told her, I was like, hey, this is great, but they can't read. Not coming in. You're going to get them to read, but they're not all going to be able to read that. And she was like, oh, okay, right? But her heart was there, right? Her heart was there. But when we were in professional development and we were discussing, hey, you're going to have to make sure this is structured. You're going to have to be consistent. You're going to have to redirect everything. Like, and I'm going to put a number to it from my own experience. Most teachers, not of the communities that serve our students, believe that they know better than us. Man, we gonna pod today.
That savior complex.
I know better than you, Mr. Knight. I don't have to be all that you're saying. And then that train gets off the tracks, and she was gone in 5 weeks. Because once they figured out that she was not going to do what was necessary to keep them in line, they made their own school in her classroom. They took turns being a teacher every day. And I know you're thinking I'm in hyperbole, but I'm not. My mentor, Mr. Campbell, once said to me, you lose control of your classroom, they'll be at your desk eating your lunch. I've seen it. you know, but I think the best way to fix that is to be intentional about the representation of the teachers of our schools.
And that segs me into my next question. You ran right into it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. So what can we do as aligned education advocates at this point in our careers to bring because we do know that representation matters, to bring in other Black and brown young men into the education field? Because in general, if you even take out Black and brown men,
Yeah.
in general right now, education is like people are leaving by the
By
droves.
the droves.
Yeah. But what can we do? Because at the end of the day, I always say that the kids are going to suffer.
Oh yeah.
The kids are going to suffer, but the state of education can't stay the way it is either for the staff and the teachers and things like that because of the way things are. But what can we do to bring that representation and have those kids see a representation of them within the classrooms and within the building?
I think we need to make the profession more attractive first. And what I mean when I say that is this: education is funded inequitably. We all know that. Well, what's the crux of it? We don't have to be, we don't have to have no magic wand. In the restriction on grants of federal dollars awarded to urban schools, so they can pay the teachers, they can recruit the teachers, and they can actively compete with suburban schools to get the best product in front of students of need. Give them that chance. If you're talking about representation of African American people, 85% of the doctors in our country came from black male doctors come from HBCUs. 85% of them. There are very intelligent African American people that do not choose education as a profession because they don't want to make $40,000 a year for 10 years.
And have to get extra degrees in order to get a raise.
They have to get extra degrees or more responsibilities. I'm going to be a principal of 2 schools next year. You see what I'm saying? That's what you have to do to be able to make a wage where you feel like, hey, I'm a success. There's a brother right now. His name is Nathan Blake Nathan. He runs an organization where he actually goes to HBCUs and recruits them to get into TNTP, teacher transition programs, so that they can add more African American people to the pools. I think that's a noble thing, but it's a small. He's taking it from a small angle. As I tell my organization, I've told them recently, we don't get to say we can't find black candidates if we're not going to go to where they are. Wilberforce, Central State, like let's go find them because it's important. We have to be intentional about it. Here's my thing. Maybe this is a little controversial, but I'm going to say it. I don't feel like anyone should have to apologize for recruiting teachers of their community. I'm sorry. On the west side of Dayton, they deserve more African American teachers. I worked at a school out there. 70% of our teachers were not African American. 95% of our students are African American. Believe it or not, it matters. And I wish we were all going to be open and honest about what that means, especially when you see their faces the first time that they have a black male principal who walks like them, talks like them, is willing to build with them, have conversations, get to know them. It changes their world. We shouldn't have to apologize for that. We should be intentional with that because the statistics say you are 80% more likely to graduate from a 4-year university if you have at least one black male teacher in elementary school. That's a research-based fact. So why aren't we more intentional about this? It seems like, going back to our story from Principal Institute, I literally had to get on stage. You was there? I had to get on stage for people to look up and say, oh, whoa, we may need to get more of him. In Louisiana, that's why I was so glad when I got to go down there and help them with their schools when I worked for Charter School USA. Because what almost immediately happened, it began to multiply. And then before you knew it, half the schools down there were led by Black males. I never forget. I was when I was working in North Carolina, I had an interview for someone. He wanted to work in North Carolina. I'd already been down there long enough to know that that ain't the move. That ain't the move. They, it ain't the move. Hey, man, I got stories, but I'm not gonna tell them. Obviously, that ain't the move. That ain't the move. So I quietly told him, I said, listen, sir, you want to be an administrator? I know where you're gonna go. You're gonna go to Louisiana. And I called my people down there and I was like, hey, I got someone for you. And she was like, why he gotta be for us? I said, no, listen to me. And when he got down there, he was a success. He's still a principal down there. So I say all that to say is this. Power. Give us an opportunity to lead. It always works out in some tangible way. I'm not saying that all Black male educators are perfect. We're not, right? But if you're in a situation where you're really trying to figure out, how can I get through to these students? I think we start with someone who is like them. I don't know. It's just how I feel about it. And I know that there's a lot of people who are going to probably hear that and say, well, what does that have to do with the fact that like there's so many people that aren't African American that have wonderful education careers in inner city communities, right? I say bravo to them, right? But in the same way that I would ask someone, hey, do you feel like you really need to work that hard to get to the goal that you need to get to? There's a straight line. Train people who have the ideas, the innovation, the ingenuity, and the swag to be able to get through to our students so that we can really truly change their lives. Not just the face value stuff. Let's get to their hearts and let's really convince them that they have an opportunity to really change the lives of themselves and their families. But we don't always get to that if we don't at least start with representation.
That's very true. That I totally agree with that. You have to have that representation and kind of because you identify with a lot more with them and they identify with you because they see you and you like, no, I've been where you are. I
Well,
understand what you're going through.
yeah, it even goes back to the idea of like when a student gets angry. Charles, chill out, bro. You know you're not that man. I'm saying, Knight. Nah, I know you saying. Lower your voice, man. Because here's the thing: if you start yelling, I got to do something. I'm not chill, bro. All right, Knight, I got you. People
And
stand
that
back.
building that relationship.
They'll see that and be like, "How you do that? He done threw a chair last year." Nah, bro. Look. He's not that mad. He just wants you to know he's upset. And he don't think you're gonna pay attention unless he start doing stupid stuff. All I did was acknowledge how he felt. Tap him on his chest. Charles, chill out, man. Come on. You know you know you don't want to do that. Now, Charles, you know I'm gonna pick up that phone, dog. Come on, Knight. Come on, Knight. Cause see, Mama done already came in 2, 3 times. I done already told her that I love her son. We done already made plans for what he's gonna be in his life. That man love you. He ain't gonna wrong you. Mr. Knight, why don't you hit him upside the head? I don't do that, man.
Oh my gosh, you like,
but I will tap him on his chest and be like, Charles, you ain't that mad. Chill out. You ain't that mad.
Oh, yeah. Have a seat, please. Have a seat. Have a seat.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you could speak to a younger Lloyd, what advice would you give him?
Oh my gosh. I think I even wrote an article about this a long time ago. I think what I would tell him is to I think I would start by saying, Mr. Knight, you're not that good. you you think you're good, but you're not that good. But if you keep working, you're gonna be okay. I would tell him to uh, continue to lean forward on all opportunities to mentor African American young men. Uh, I would tell him to listen to Mr. Tuppence, your first principal, when he tells you, hey, um, you want to be a principal, but if you don't become a better teacher, they're just going to have you as an assistant principal for your entire career and support someone who can actually teach. So he sent me to the math training to represent the building as a second year teacher. And it changed my life. Reason why those things happen is because I was always hoping to be willing and to learn from people. And I want that person to do that. I think I would definitely um, tell him to listen to his mentors even more. Um, and I think the last thing I would say is appreciate those moments because you're gonna move around a lot, bro. And you're gonna have stories with you, but you may not always carry relationships. And just being more attentive to that. Because, I think every person I've ever worked for has been a great person in their own way. I mean, I did, man, I was an assistant principal for 1 year. 1 year. And I think I drove my principal crazy. I know
Oh,
I
goodness.
did. I would come in, I'd be like, I got this idea. She'd be like, Knight, I'm just trying to get to my email. The kids are failing. Listen.
Oh,
Uh,
goodness.
or I show up
That's
to
funny.
Saturday school. Oh my gosh. I showed up to Saturday school one day and everybody up in that building was getting like $500 for that day or something crazy. I said, let me find out what's happening on Saturday. I pulled up in that parking lot. I'm the assistant principal. I went to 5 different classrooms. Asked me how many of them were teaching the kids, just actually teaching the kids. Zero. None of them.
I'm sure.
They were just sitting there playing with blocks on a Saturday. I went into the principal's office. She was in there in a sweatsuit. I said, hey, no one is teaching right now. And I just stepped back. She was like, she had glasses too. She was like, what? You don't say, Knight. You knew nobody was teaching.
Listen, it was something that needed to be done. She said it was done. They had Saturday school. Now, if it was done with fidelity, is a different thing. That is a totally different thing if it was done with fidelity now.
Hey man, listen. But you know what? You know what? While we here, I do want to give a shout out to because we do have to highlight allies in our line of work, and Aaron Lanou was a savior for me as an administrator in Chicago because I hated all that operation stuff, and I still do. And I tell people in interviews like, listen, I'd really like for somebody to get this operation stuff together. I hate that. Like I'll tell the superintendent, I'll tell the CEO, hey, look, can you have someone take care of this operation stuff? I don't want to do no reports. I don't want to do none of that. I'm here to coach teachers. I'm here to mentor and educate students. And I'm here to drive the mission and vision of this school. I am not here to sit in that office for 12 hours to check some roster to make sure every kid was here at the exact time. No, I don't want to do it. And you know what she did? All of that. She would just pop up and be like, hey, sign this. I'd be like, yes, thank you. And she was open, honest, fair, gave me opportunities to experiment and do cool stuff. I'm just thankful. She was awesome, you know. And she mentored me when I was a lead principal in North Carolina, always answered the phone, even though I would hear the absolute most vile things. Woo! Man, people just say the N-word, man. You'd be like, whoa. Yeah, you be like, whoa, in a board meeting. You be like, oh, I'm here. It's crazy times, man.
Interesting, interesting. Well, talk to me about culture of love.
Hmm. Well, culture love is a pretty simple concept where um, I want to take a lot of the work that I've done in my career where I will come in and help schools that are struggling with their school culture, whether that's from a leadership perspective, whether that's from a systems and procedures perspective, whether it's a mentoring perspective, as far as um, mentoring deans and administrators and disciplinary things. It's something that we do because our mission is the eradication of failing schools within our inner cities. And I believe that there's a certain set of ideas and concepts that are universally recognized as how great schools run. Um, in the way that I believe that in education, we should love all of our students, and schools should be a place of love. But it should also be a place of accountability. It's a place where everyone should be on the same page with the mission, vision, and values of the school. It's a place where people are able to collaborate in real ways, where everyone gets to have a voice. They don't get to have a decision, but everyone gets to have a voice, and everyone gets opportunities to be heard. Um, and that we live in a restorative mindset, not like those tree huggers who they don't think a kid should ever be suspended again. Nah, not them. No. But I'm talking about accountability and being willing to fix the harm that was caused to people, to things, so that we can move forward and grow and get better. And I think a lot of times within our schools, especially public schools, district schools, they preach the opposite of that. They create behavior matrices where you have to do these things, and if you don't do these things, that is against policy. I'm a person who believes you have to be willing to um, be innovative in your practice, because everything on that paper is not going to work for every student, and we got to be willing to do that. So
I'm glad you said that because that is definitely a major, major problem within um, our current system in the way that it is because it's like a one size fits all
yes,
discipline and all of this and all of that, but it's like all of that's not, it doesn't work for all of our kids, and unfortunately I always like to say the system wasn't built for us in the first place. So it's just it doesn't work like that. And then I remember you talking about if the kids happen to be on zero in the hallway, and then you bringing all of these, that era of the zero tolerance policies, right? So that disproportionately affected our children as well because of we're not taking the time to kind of understand where they're coming from and how we can fix what's going on, because that behavior is a symptom for something else.
absolutely, right. Because I feel like the zero tolerance policies were used to weaponize against our students.
Exactly.
Because what would happen is that suddenly you like, well, why is Jimmy down here? Because Jimmy did that thing again. But maybe Jimmy's doing that thing because he doesn't feel loved and cared for by you. And that's why we have professional development within culture of love, where whether it's a whole year leadership coaching, like I just did in Baton Rouge, Louisiana with Landry High School, where I mentored the dean and was able to give feedback within 24 hours of actionable items that they could do to improve their school. And from the time I was there in the beginning to the time that I left, we saw market improvement in systems and procedures and safety within the school. Or we have three different also trainings that we do where we actually train peacekeepers with restorative justice. We do an immersion over a 2 day span where I get with your team, I make them peacekeepers, and we get it all out, therapy style, in there. Run the circle. Um, we also have professional development we offer that goes along with my book, a book study, The Three Phases of School Culture. talking about how to build autonomous teams and reduce burnout for administrators and leaders in the school. And then the final one, me and my partner, James Black, we developed a professional development around the relationship between administrators and school resource officers. I believe that, especially in inner city schools, the relationship between the police and um, administrators is paramount. You don't get that right, you don't get the right support, people could get hurt. Disagreements are made, and learning how to handle that is important. So, so we have all those things going on for the upcoming year, and I'm hoping I can get some love here in Ohio. There are very few Black male facilitators in the state of Ohio, and I'm hoping to have those opportunities here so that I can contribute to Dayton or Cincinnati, Toledo, Cleveland, Columbus, Youngstown. There's plenty of work to be done here in Ohio, and I hope the culture of love can be a big part of that.
That's good. So, and in all of that, how would you define success personally and professionally?
So, for me, um, success will be um, being able to give tangible reasons for how I and my organization can have a real impact on how education is done within Columbus, Ohio, or the United States or the Midwest. Um, I'm not shy in saying that, yeah, I mean, there's been a long time in which I've worked to want to be one of the greatest educators who ever lived, because I know that um, it's going to be a lot of hard work to be able to do that. And to be a great educator means that you're being great for students. So, of course, you want to be the best educator you can be. Um, for my organization, my day job, hopefully we'll get a brand new high school off the ground and they'll be spilling out with students. We'll see about that, while also maintaining a pretty good middle school. We're excited about how testing went this year. And I think with culture of love, I think for me, I want to just continue to be a part of uh, a community of educators that are looking to make a difference in the lives of our students. I'm still looking for a school that may want to have some real coaching over the course of an entire school year. So that's still open for me on my calendar for the upcoming year. But also, I'm looking to begin connecting with people past and present, the Coach Jacks, the Rhonda Bells, the Sharper Moise, so that we can continue to come together and grow and get that influence out and create content where there's going to be people out there that, hey, you come across stuff and you may not even ever know that you had an impact on their career, but know that you did because the work that you've done is worthy. So I think those are the things that I'd want personally and professionally. Um, and I know like the personal and professional is like the same thing because education is my life. I know it's weird, but it's how things are, and I'm just happy that God's put me in a position to be able to make a difference for students within the Midwest and all over the United States.
Well, we all know that the power of words and affirmation. So please share with us your favorite quote, saying, or affirmation.
Oh wow. So I want to get it right. So give me 1 second. I just want to make sure I get it perfect. You'll probably edit all this, right? Let me stop. All right, here we go. So Proverbs 18:21. The tongue has the power of life and death. The stakes are high. Your words can either speak life or your words can speak death. Our tongues can bring others up or they can tear them down. That's a translation I've ever heard, but it's actually pretty perfect. Um, I believe words have the power of life and death is in the tongue. And that's why when I was at TC Howe, I told everyone's going to speak like a scholar. They're going to curse me and look at them and say, yeah, young man, speak like a scholar. And it sounds really corny. But you know what? If I continue to redirect students, it happened. Speak life into our students. They've been through so much. Welcome them every day. Good morning. We love you. Get on in here. We're ready to learn today. What you mean, bruh? It's not the trap house, man. I came straight here. Mama gonna be mad if I miss any more days of school. Why are you so excited to see me? You speak power into people. You believe in them. I think it's important. And that's why that's my favorite quote in education. Because though, it's from the Bible, I am a Christian man, but I will say this. When people speak death into our students, when they don't believe in them, when they tell them that they're less than, when they tell them that they're no one or they'll never be anything, or you're not welcome in my class, or you're never going to pass this test. Why do you think you can get into that school? You speak death into our students. So that's why, no matter where I've been, I put that verse up. And I say, get me in trouble if you want to. I'm okay. But you need to know that this is what I believe. I believe that the power of life and death is in the tongue. And those who use it for life will receive life, and those who use it for death will receive death. So even though our students come from the worst circumstances ever, we treat them like kings and queens. We respect them. We ask them to advocate for themselves. We value their voice because it's going to breathe life into them. And I believe it's worth it. And I know a lot of people might say, hey, just because you say it don't mean it's going to happen. Well, guess what? I said we was going to turn around Lloyd Bond, and we did. I said we was going to turn around TC Howe, and we did. I said we was going to turn around Thurgood Marshall, and we didn't. Hey, but you know what? We tried our best, and the school was great, and the kids loved each other, and they tried their best, but it didn't work out. So I say that Proverbs 18:21 is my favorite quote or saying. What is yours? I want to hear what yours is.
Oh, wow.
Didn't see that coming. Reverse Uno.
I did not see that one coming. You know what? I think it's centered around speaking in the words because I do a lot of affirmations. I do a lot of meditating.
Okay.
And one thing that I've learned, and I have to speak it to myself, right? Because it's that inner voice. It doesn't matter because people think that if you don't say it, then it's not real.
Right.
But that subconscious mind, whatever it's in your mind and in your heart and in your spirit, it still permeates, right? Because it's still there. That inner voice inside of you telling you, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, or whatever the case may be. Right. It's still there, and it's still in your mind and in your spirit, even if you don't say it. So I think that that's very powerful. And one of the things that I've always done and kind of learned is to speak positive. Even when I'm having a bad day, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this right now?
Right.
What am I learning from this right now? What do I need to change in order to make, and to turn this into a positive, although it's a negative, right? It's all about your perspective and how you see things, happening. And something you brought up that was very interesting because I was coaching someone a couple of weeks ago. Okay. And I told them, I said, hey, you need to have a bit more positive praise to the students. And I said, if they get something right, say, hey, you did a good job. I like the way that you did X or Y, et cetera, right? I said, because they need to hear that. And so I came back earlier this week and had a conversation with her again about it. And she was like, I did what you told me to do. But the student looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, he just looked at me funny. I said, you know why he looked at you funny? I said, because he probably doesn't hear it very often. So you saying that was like, wait, what? I said, so no, just because he looked at you funny doesn't make it a bad thing.
Right.
I said, no, I want you to continue feeding that positive praise into that student because they need to hear that. Because I said that reaction told me that he doesn't hear that very often.
I'm so glad you gave that advice. Did she heed to it? Did she continue to follow through with it?
Yes, I told her, I said, you need to continue follow through and then be just more specific with it. I like the way that you read that passage. Thank you so much for doing this. I like the way that you did that. I appreciate this. I said, you have to speak that positivity into, especially this is a group of struggling students, right? So I'm like, no, you have to do that because all they know is failure. Right? People telling them you have to go do this now because you failed X, Y, and Z or your grades aren't great. They're not going to have a positive mindset about themselves. They're not going to have a positive outlook about themselves.
I mean, you're so on time with that. Like even now, it's like I'm going back to Chicago where like the first 2 months, I didn't have a positive anything. It was all a negative clip chart. And I never forget there was this girl and she took a pen and she broke that joint. She walked up to me. She was like, she's like she broke it, threw it on the ground. And at the time, I thought it was the funniest thing ever. But I was so mad. But now I look at it and now I know why. I was not filling her cup ever. It was all like, you better do this, you better do that, you better do this. And once I started getting that coaching, and she was like, she would, because like I did real-time coaching. That's how far gone I was. They would be in the back of the room whispering into the mic, Mr. Knight, look to the left, narrate. And I'd be like, Bobby has his feet under his desk. And the kids would be like, all their feet under the desk. Look to the right. Narrate the kids who have been working the entire time. Use a percentage. 90% of my students are working continuously. Up 100%. Good job, Mr. Knight. Now take a lap around. Oh my gosh. Like, and what I realized is I started doing the positive narration everywhere. And I started getting people to listen to me all the time. And that's what I'm telling people. It's like, and no, it's super geeky, but man, when you really start to get it in the inner city, it was over for me. Because I remember sitting behind the bookcase, tears streaming down my face because Shondell has observed me being awful and she's going to make me watch that tape. And I don't want to watch any more tape of me being bad. I can't take this anymore. You know? And then I come, she comes in to check on me. She knows I've been crying behind that bookcase. And she's like, you think it's ever going to get better? I said, I need a new coach, man. I can't do her. But once you get it, like it changed my life. I knew I was going to do this the rest of my life. I knew I would never do anything else. And I'm just grateful that there's people like you in my life where I can be able to talk about education because for me, going back to the question you had before, what would I hope I get out of this? Man, if I can inspire one person to become an educator or inspire one person to want to lead in education and may not otherwise think that they're that person, because I was not that person. I never thought I would be a principal. I never thought I would be a CEO of education, anything, nothing. And now I'm there, and I know I'm there because I was always meant to be. So I got to be the person who builds the bridge for the next brothers who come behind me that are a coach, a 9 and under AAU girls basketball coach, like I was, lose every game that summer, 45-2.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, ref walk past your bench like, look, man. Like we argue with the ref. Hey, foul. He's like, nah, man, you just need to get better plays, bro. I ain't trying to hear that noise. And the Boo Williams Sportsplex getting just toe up. That guy was going to become a principal one day. No way. But it happened because people saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And I feel like, as I tell my teachers now, we have an obligation to the next generation of educators. We have to be willing and available to show them the impact they can have if they desire to be great in our field. And I'm hoping that, I continue to be that for as many people as possible.
I guess you took care of my last question. I'm going to say it anyway, just to see if you have anything to add to it. But it is around legacy, right? I mean, when I talk about legacy, I'm talking about when you're 99 years old, relaxing somewhere with the wife and the kids and grandkids, great grandkids. At the end of the day, when everything is all said and done, what do you want that legacy to be? What do you want them to say about Mr. Knight?
Oh man, that he was willing to go anywhere and everywhere to make sure the Black children had an opportunity at an equitable education. That he loved his students, that he did anything for them, and that he always took time to really, really try to make a difference with students. And he never threw anybody away. That he didn't give every opportunity to come to him. That's the legacy I hope to have. And I hope to leave behind an education institution, whether it's a school, whether it's a consulting company, or one day my kids can continue to live off of the intellectual property and can create their own with daddy's company when he's long gone. Because I hope they become educators too. Because is there a better job? There isn't a better job. Come on, man. Ain't no better job to be an educator, man. We're gonna have something in like a month. What? And when you're a principal, it ain't, I'll be at work, but I'm gonna work from like 8 to 1, 8 to noon. I'm gonna be home by 1:30 playing Fortnite.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, Mr. Knight, I appreciate you coming on with us here on State of the Black Male, Sharper Moise Foundation. We appreciate you. And tell us again where they can get the book.
Absolutely. So if you go to www.culturereol.com, our book is listed along with all of our consulting menu of services are listed up there as well. If you want to find us on Twitter, we are culture underscore OL, or you find us on Instagram by the same name. So we're really excited about the social media presence that we have. You can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on LinkedIn. I have over 5,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I'm always willing and available to follow educators from all over the world. So looking forward to continue to connect with you, Ms. Sharper Moise. We'll continue our work together or separate platforms, and I'm excited to continue to have you as a thought partner. I definitely respect you, and I'm thankful to have you in my life, sister. So let's continue to do great work together.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to us partnering and doing a lot of great work together for our kids and making sure they get this equitable education that they are so deprived of right now.
25% of students in some districts did not come back last year and did not go to any school. 50% of teachers in Alabama are only there for 2 to 3 years. We're in crisis. And I'm glad that we were able to build tonight so that hopefully we can get some more soldiers for the fight that we're going to have.
Yeah, we definitely are in crisis and just hoping that um, we are able to use our platforms and our voices to amplify the issues that we're having,
Yes.
and bring a collective together to come up with a solution in order to kind of help avert this crisis in the direction that we're heading in. Because if we have teachers leaving in droves at the way that they are, then like I said earlier, that just means that the kids are going to suffer, because who's going to be in those classrooms?
Subs.
You know how that is. You couldn't even. I tell people, I was like, even before the pandemic happened, you couldn't even find a sub, a real good sub. Now, it's we're in crisis mode, like you said. We are in crisis
subs
mode.
out there. You want to be a sub, man? Okay, can I tell one last story before we're done?
Sure, of
I have
course.
to tell one last story. Okay, so what are you willing to do to keep a daily sub in your building? Because I was willing to go on someone's podcast. She came in my office. She set up her tripod, had her light, had her cell phone. She hit record. We talked for an hour. And mind you, my school was in Dayton, Ohio, and I lived in Indianapolis. So I had to drive an hour and a half. And I stayed an extra hour and a half that day after school just because she wanted to do this podcast because I needed to keep her as a daily sub. You know what she told me the next day? It didn't save. And that was after she rode there in the rain on her moped. I ain't dealing with y'all no more, man.
Oh goodness.
I
Please wait, hold on. Please tell me that she at least stayed as a daily sub after all of that.
Look. No, she didn't stay. It wasn't by her choice. I ain't gonna try to get too much into it. But for some reason, one day, she thought she could counsel a student. Oh my, I can't even say it. I'm not even gonna say it. I can't. I'm not even gonna say it.
Oh my God.
We pod today, but we can't pod like that. Because a kid was like, I'm having these feelings. And she was like, oh man, my kid did too. It's okay. I've gotten over it. You gotta go, ladies. You. Where your moped? Where is your moped? Get out the door.
Oh my gosh, the stories that we have that we can't tell in public sometimes.
You're just looking like, ma'am, you said what? I did. Get out. You're not under a union contract. I need you to leave. You gotta go. Immediately.
Oh my goodness. That is crazy.
Yeah. So no, there's always I am a stories oriented person because I feel like there's no better way to get a point across than like a tangible evidence of something, right? So so yeah, man, like being able to tell stories of all the interesting people that have been in my life, the parents who would walk across the street to fuss me out 2 minutes after they child and destroyed a classroom. It's my fault.
Yes.
I think part of the struggle in education in urban schools is the stress, the anxiety, the all that stuff, pressure, right? But what comes out of it is like all the love of all the people and all the interesting stories and the things that you learn. Um, it's amazing. And then my kids now from that I've taught are old enough that they contact me on Facebook and they ask me for favors and because they're trying to get better and trying to advance. And it's what it's all about, man. It's about the kids, man.
At the end of the day, that's why we do what we do.
Absolutely, man.
Well, again, I appreciate you for coming on. Guys, we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and make sure you go ahead and get Mr. Knight's book.
3 Phases of School Culture, Amazon. Go get it.
Yep. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you next time.